You're useless. I knew I was being fired the moment Richard Blake closed the conference room door. Not because he looked angry, because he looked satisfied. The glass walls of the conference room gave me a perfect view of the entire office. Everyone outside could see us, and everyone inside could see me. 12 people sat around that table. Senior managers, department heads, people I'd worked beside for years, and nobody knew what was about to happen. Richard placed both hands on the table and looked directly at me. Then he sighed. Not the tired kind of sigh. The kind someone makes when they've already made a decision and they're pretending you're still being given a chance. "Daniel," he said, "we've had this conversation before." I didn't answer. He continued, "Your performance has been disappointing." I almost laughed. Disappointing? 3 weeks earlier, I'd stayed in the office until 2 in the morning to save one of our biggest accounts. Nobody thanked me. 2 months before that, I'd spent an entire weekend rebuilding a financial model because Richard had promised a client something our team couldn't actually deliver. And 6 months earlier, I'd prevented a contract worth millions from falling apart. But apparently, I was disappointing. Richard picked up a folder. He opened it slowly. "I'm looking at the numbers," he said. "And frankly, Daniel, I don't understand why you're still here." That sentence hurt more than I expected. Not because I believed him, because I'd spent 6 years trying to prove I belonged there. I looked around the room. Sarah was sitting near the end of the table. She wouldn't look at me. Neither would anyone else. Richard closed the folder. Then he leaned back in his chair and said the words that would change both of our lives. "You're useless." The room went completely silent. I stared at him. For a moment, I honestly thought I'd misheard him. Richard pointed toward the door. "Pack your things." He paused. "You're fired." Nobody moved. Nobody said a word. I could hear the air conditioning above us. I could hear the faint sound of keyboards outside the glass walls. And somehow, those ordinary sounds made the moment feel even more humiliating. 6 years. That's how long I'd worked for Blackstone Solutions. 6 years of arriving before most people. 6 years of staying after everyone else went home. 6 years of solving problems that weren't technically my responsibility. And now I was being dismissed in front of 12 people like I had never mattered. Richard looked at me. He was waiting for me to beg. I could see it in his face. He wanted me to say something. He wanted me to defend myself. Maybe he wanted me to lose my temper so he could tell everyone afterward that firing me had been the right decision. But I didn't give him that satisfaction. I stood up. Slowly, I reached for my laptop. I closed it. Then I picked up my bag. As I walked around the table, I passed 12 pairs of eyes. Some were sympathetic. Some were embarrassed. And some looked relieved. I didn't blame them. Nobody wants to be the next person sitting in my chair. When I reached the door, I stopped. I turned around. Richard was still sitting there. Still confident. Still convinced he'd won. I looked directly at him. "You'll remember this." Richard smiled. Not nervously. Not uncertainly. He actually laughed. "Daniel," he said, "you're not important enough for me to remember." I said nothing. I walked out. The elevator doors closed behind me. And for the first time in 6 years, I had no idea what I was going to do next. When I reached my desk, I started packing. A framed photograph. A coffee mug. A notebook I'd kept since my first week at Blackstone. And the old laptop stand I'd bought with my own money. One by one, I put everything into a cardboard box. People walked past me, pretending not to stare. Then Sarah appeared. She stopped beside my desk. She looked around to make sure nobody was listening. "Daniel." I looked at her. "What?" Her voice dropped. "I'm sorry." I smiled. "Don't be." She hesitated. Then she whispered something that made me stop packing. You know this isn't really about your performance." I stared at her. "What do you mean?" Sarah looked toward Richard's office, then back at me. "I think you already know." Before I could ask anything else, she walked away. I stood there for several seconds. Then my phone buzzed. I reached into my pocket. I expected another message from HR. Maybe instructions about collecting my belongings. Maybe information about my final paycheck. Instead, I saw a name on the screen that made my heart stop. Victoria Hale, CEO of Vantage Group, Blackstone's biggest client. I stared at the message. It contained only one sentence. "Daniel, are you leaving Blackstone?" I froze. I hadn't told Vantage. Nobody had. Not yet. Richard hadn't announced anything. HR hadn't contacted them. And I certainly hadn't contacted Victoria. I looked across the office toward Richard's glass-walled office. He was sitting at his desk, smiling, completely unaware of the message on my phone. I looked back at the screen. Then another message appeared. "Please don't disappear. I need to speak with you personally." I read it twice, then a third time, and suddenly, I understood something Richard didn't. He hadn't just fired an employee. He had just fired the one person his biggest client actually trusted. And he had no idea what was coming next. Pause. I picked up my box, walked toward the elevator, and this time, I smiled, because I had a feeling my unemployment was about to become Richard Blake's biggest problem.